For today's review, we are looking at Metamorpho from the Superman movie, and before I talk about the accessories and the figure, let's take a quick look at the data profile card. As you can see, there is this beautiful artwork of Metamorpho, and on the backside of the card, you do have your usual read-up for who the character is. His real name is Rex Mason, and it reads, donned only in a threadbare pair of wrestling trunks, Rex Mason, aka Metamorpho, or the Element Man, is an eerie, haunted bald man with an ashen white face and a body that can be composed of different substances. Clay, metal, and elements, far more dangerous. In the hands of a villain like Lex Luthor, he can be deadly. And that's a pretty good read up on who Metamorpho is as a character. And let's move on to the accessories that are included with this figure. And when it comes to his accessories, he does not come with much at all. All he has are these two interchangeable hands in the form of open gesture hands, and by default, the figure also has two fist hands. So, yeah, this seemed like a missed opportunity for them to give him just a few more accessories, in my opinion, because this is the first Metamorpho figure that we have ever received in this iteration of DC Multiverse. And they could have done a little bit better with the accessories, in my opinion, because this is a character that can shapeshift his arm into different objects, into weapons, right? A good example, in the movie, he did shapeshift his hand into a kryptonite, right? That's what weakened Superman. He also shapeshifted his hand into a giant hammer in the final battle scene in the movie. Now, I know these are like spoilers, and that's probably why they didn't give the figure those accessories. But I mean, they could have done something else and kind of gone creative with it. You know what I mean? Because I don't think we're ever going to get a comic version of Metamorpho before the line ends. So this was kind of the opportunity here. That's pretty much it for what he has in the box. And of course, the DC figure stand, which they always come with. And that is pretty much everything that is included with Metamorpho. And let's move on to the aesthetics of this figure. When it comes to sculpted details, Metamorpho does not shy away from any of that. As you can see, the entirety of the figure is filled with a lot of sculpted details, and I think Mcfarlane Toys did a pretty good job here in terms of taking that live action design and translating it into plastic form. And let's take a closer look at some of these details, starting with the head sculpt. So when it comes to likenesses with this figure to the actual actor, I'm not too sure if this is close to what the actor looks like in the movie, because I haven't seen the movie in a while. I've only watched it once. So if it's close, then they didn't do a bad job. But in terms of the face sculpt itself for the figure, it does not look bad. I think the overall look here actually looks nice with the way that it came out. And something funny I do want to point out. So when I picked up this figure on clearance at my local Target, I noticed that there were two copies of them. And one of them had this weird QC problem with the eyes, where he was looking to the side extremely. And if you remember the whole side eyes fiasco sort of thing that happened years ago, where they were just making a lot of figures with side eyes, this felt similar to that, but in a funny way, because I think that might just be a QC issue. So you have one copy of the figure looking straight, and you have another copy next to it looking off to the side. It was just hilarious when I saw that. So I was very fortunate that this copy was there, because if it wasn't, then I would have probably ended up with the one with the extreme side eyes, potentially. So, yeah, that's just something I want to mention. And in terms of the details of the head sculpt, you can see that there are these sculpted lines that are part of the skin here. I'm not too sure what those are, but they are sculpted, so that's pretty nice. And it does scream aliens. So, this look of the character reminds me of that character from Aliens. Was his name the Engineer? I'm not too sure what he was called. I don't remember. It's been a while. But if you know which character I'm referring to, that's kind of what the head sculpt here reminds me of when I look at it. And moving on to the torso and the arms. I love the divide here in the middle. You can see the half and half design. And this is basically what he looks like in the comics as well as the cartoons. He has two different colors for his torso and his arms, representing, I guess, like two different elements or something. I'm not too sure what they're representing, but this side is like a brownish color, as you can see, and the texturing details that are sculpted into it is done nicely. And on this side is purple mixed with some blues and some oranges. Just the overall sculpted details here are just beautiful. I love the fact that they emphasized the sculpt here, because they could have easily just left it flat, but that doesn't work here, because in the actual live action design, he does have a lot of these details on him. And you can see those details on the backside as well, with some minor, I don't know if that's like a wash or something, but there are some darker parts on the backside here. So there is the torso and his arms looking very nicely sculpted. And moving on to his pants. He is wearing trunks. These are the standard shorts that I wear when I sleep at night. So it's really funny to see a superhero character wear the same exact pants that most of us probably would wear during summertime, or just in general, like maybe when we're like out running or something, because these are just the standard trunks. So you can see those sort of details right there with the top part of it, the wrinkle marks. And yeah, these are a nice looking pair of trunks here. So that's kind of funny. And moving on to his legs. His legs are also pretty cool as well. This side is all like white color and this sort of translucent plastic. I'm not sure what this is supposed to represent. Is this supposed to be ice or salt or something along the lines of those elements? I'm not too sure, okay? But that's what this looks like to me. This side looks more like it's supposed to be like, what do you call them? Kind of similar to Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy with the whole like wood and stuff, but I'm not too sure if that's what it is. So there are the legs, and then there are the feet down here for the character. So yeah, pretty nicely detailed as well. Oh, this kind of reminds me of the sort of sculpting design they use for King Kordak. And that is pretty much most of the aesthetics for Metamorpho. He is nicely sculpted, and I think they did a pretty good job. Again, I'm going to reiterate that because this is not a bad-looking live-action movie figure from Mcfarlane Toys when it comes to a character like this. So, really love when they actually put effort and actually add all the sculpted elements to the figure. So, let's move on to the articulation now. Starting with the articulation of his head sculpt, Metamorpho can look up, as you can see. He can look down slightly, not the best. He can turn his head left and right. He can tilt his head side to side. So when it comes to the range of motion for the head sculpt, it's pretty decent. And for the arms here, Metamorpho can lift them out this much. He can also swing them back and forth with no problems. He has bicep swivel. He also has double jointed in the articulation. And he has swivel in the hands as well as wrist articulation, which sadly on my copy, it's like really tight. It does not want to work. Yeah, it does not want to work, which is quite unfortunate. And moving on to his torso. He does have really good range of motion when it comes to rotation, but when it comes to leaning forward, it's actually kind of decent. It can lean forward. He can also lean back. Actually, it's like balanced. Surprisingly, he can lean forward a little bit, he can lean back a little bit. That's kind of impressive because sometimes they can't even do either. So there is the articulation with the upper torso. And for the waist, there's also a good range of motion here as well. He can also lean forward. Wow. He can lean back. I am actually speechless because once in a while, we do see figures from Mcfarlane where they actually have decent articulation. And there's the articulation for the upper torso and the lower waist, which was quite a surprise to see for a Mcfarlane figure. And let's move down to his legs. So can he do the splits? No, he cannot do the splits. Can he kick out? This is as much as he can kick out, which is quite unfortunate. Does he have upper thigh swivels? No, he does not. He does at least have double jointed legs down here, which do work. And he also has articulation in the feet, as well as swivel and toe articulation. So, sadly, the lower half of the figure does not have that great of a range of motion here for the articulation. So, when you're trying to get them into some action poses, you're going to have to get creative or do a modification with the legs here, carve out enough room maybe for them to kick out more. I'm not too sure what you can do, but there are solutions to fixing this if you are good at customizing your action figures with modifications. And that is pretty much all the articulation for Metamorpho. Let's move on to the comparisons. Since we are looking at a live action movie figure, here is Metamorpho next to the Batman from Batman Begins. And as you can see, they actually don't look bad together when they're next to each other. And I can't imagine that Metamorpho exists in the Christian Bale universe. Maybe, that's just a fun thought, but there are the two of them together, and that is the first comparison. And for the second comparison, here he is next to the Silver Age Superman. And yeah, not bad. Well, of course, in this case, it's live action and a comic book figure, so you're never going to have these two figures in the same shelf. But since this is the only Metamorpho we have so far in this line, I guess you're going to have to make it work somehow, right? So I don't think it looks that bad when you have them next to each other. But when you look closely at them, you'll realize, oh, right, this is the movie one and this is a comic book figure. So there's that. And for the final comparison, here he is next to Ice, who we will be looking at next. So there are the comparisons for today's review. And if you found today's review on Metamorpho informative, do give this video a like. If you want to subscribe to the channel for more action figure content and whatever else I do on here, it would be much appreciated. And with that said, take care, and I will see you in the next video.